Alright, this video is for basically to show how to close the gearbox. I'm going to use an SHS M170 spring. This is a garter spring guide that has been filed down, grinded and so forth so that it would fit in the spring. But go ahead and install it in this one that has an M150 and show how easy it is to install it, because if you're having difficulty, basically you need to see how it's done, I guess, to make your difficulty go away. So I'm going to pull all these off, and just in case somebody's like, hey, that's not really an SHS M170 spring, yeah, you look at this thing, it is definitely, you can see how hard that is to compress. It's an SHS M170 spring, and it's longer than the gearbox, which is good. About that much is going to have to be compressed, so about that much goes in. The back end is more coiled, so you're putting it in right. And let's go ahead and open this thing up and finish what I was about to start. So this is just a VFC gearbox. And hopefully I don't have to modify something to just put this in and show it can be done easily. I'm getting sick of the modifying bullshit, so. And it's just basically what it is the brand between brands. This stuff is not spec. Alright, so here we go. Here, take all these screws. Should get a drill. Wireless, removable, screwless. I'd like to see a screwless gearbox design, which could be done pretty easily. Alright, here's all the screws to the side. Go ahead and pop her off. Go ahead and what I do is I usually push these down a little bit. Now this gearbox shell does not fit meshly, so what I have to use is a screwdriver to actually start to pop it open. Again, this is an M150 spring by Systema, so basically one of the few parts that you would ever use from Systema. Spring's worn down a little bit, so you can see this spring guide allows me to put the screwdriver all the way through it. Let's get a close-up of this right here. Let's go ahead and move the screws for a second. Try to figure out where the center is right here. Alright, first things first, you'll notice when I work on the gearbox and when I want it to shut, I put everything in there so it does not freaking move. If the trigger wants to move here, what you do is you put that in last. Usually there's a spring or something here and I'll have to force it, pop it in there. But you can see that there really is nothing moving. Basically what that comes down to is if you take the spring here and you bend it a little bit, or you cut it down, you can do the same thing with the anti-versal latch. You could even use, if you wanted to, just to show that I have it. I got these from Radio Shack and they sure as heck are not cheap. So if you're looking for a cheap setup, this is not cheap, but this makes it get the job done if you're having a horrible problem. Here is your magnets, or my magnets, excuse me. It has cracked right here and broken off because it had reverse polarity. Not polarity, but the positive to negative here was just pushing against each other, so it actually broke off. And that wasn't from this. If I take the piece out and show, it doesn't stick to here anymore. So basically the whole magnet was breaking itself off. But here's all 4 of them put together, and you just simply slide this underneath the gearbox right here. And it will hold actually these gears and this, if it can grab the gears and first latch, and anything else in this area down. Making it extremely easy to do anything, but I'm not even going to use this, just for sake of this video. Okay, so first things first is go ahead and take these shims off right here and put them back on where they're supposed to be. Alright, okay, so here we go. I'm going to change this out. Grab the really tough one. Position this. Put it in. And you can see, so you can see what I'm doing. I'm trying to find the center of the camera. Okay, palm it. Put your thumb down on the piston if you need to. See how easy that was? And then with force, now I take this out and I actually bump things that are not straight. If I need to. Alright, so this piece right here is not moving straight. There you go. Just simply push things that are not aligned. Sometimes it'll line up by itself, sometimes it doesn't. The reason is because it's got this little bit of resistance and it doesn't want to. We've got the spur gear in there trying not to. So what I'm going to do is try to hit it into place. This is really just your worst case scenario. Usually what happens is the thing will stay in place anyways. Now I can't get my screwdriver out. There we go. Okay, it was that simple. Like I said, that's worst case scenario where the gears don't want to come together. What you could do is, depending on the way you want to do it, you could start from the back, go to the front, go from the front to the back. You could even, like, if you really want to make sure that these don't move, you got them in the straight place and you just put it in like that. You can see it's in there. Check everything. Take the screwdriver here. Usually I have another tool that's not sharp like this, but this is just for this purpose. Push the piston back. You can see that is very hard to push, but you can see it's stalled in there correctly. Trigger stalled in there correctly. Last thing you want to check down here is your gear. Let me kind of zoom up on this. See here, it stops right here. It means the anti-reversal latch is working. And as I turn it, you see how easy it is? It's a good shim job. You hear it click. That's the anti-reversal latch. Look, it stopped. You can't go back. So you know that part's working. So basically, all you do now is you screw this thing down and you're done. But I am not going to use this spring in this gun, so I'm going to go ahead and retake this out and install the other spring, and we're going to see if I can do that one-handed, if I can get away with it. I've gotten away with it before. It's not a BS argument. I just have. It's a little bit of a worn spring, so I'm going to see if I can get away with it again. Alright, so what I'm doing here, as you can see, I'm holding really stiff down. I mean, it's not all my strength. Bam. Okay, pull that out. Alright, we're going to try this one-handed. So, first I'm going to install it, and then I'm going to close it one-handed. Make sure everything's in place. That's the only way you can do it one-handed. See, now what's going on here is the front doesn't want to come down. My other hand, just in case you guys doubt me, I'm putting it behind my head. Ouch. Kind of pinched myself, but there you go. Wow. It's not bullshit. Just a test. Yeah, and that's pretty hard to push. So, yeah, it's working. Wow. Like I said, this is very easy to do. If you're having difficulty, it's simply because you're not doing something right and you need to see it done. That M150 is worn a little bit, so it kind of makes it easier to install. But even a new M150, I've done it. Basically, what it comes down to is how much it can push the cylinder piston out of place. But in some cases, depending on the gap in here you have, like this one, it will try to shoot out, and sometimes it won't. So in this case, you can see it did try to shoot out, and this spring is not really that old. So I'm going to go ahead and close this up, and that's pretty much it. If you have any questions or anything, what I do at this point is always check with the multimeter, make sure your trigger is working, your whole line, your front of your air nozzle is moving, and that your piston can move back. And these are things you check. You check your gears that can turn real nice, and if you start field resistance like right now I am, that's because it's too enough forward, it's trying to grab the tap-up plate. But if you turn it to the, I guess it's the 1 o'clock position, you won't see it as much. You want to be at the 2 o'clock position, and then you can check that. So basically, that's pretty much it. If you have a real issue with closing in the back here, let me talk about maybe 2 places that you have a really hard time closing. Anything you have that won't close here, you just use a screwdriver. You can see I did that earlier. Or I pop something here, pop something there, and then there, to make sure everything's checked at the end. As far as the back here, sometimes you want to angle the spring guide a little bit, so you go down and up until the back closes. You want to, on the front here, make sure that this is actually sitting down. And sometimes, I'm not kidding you, the cylinder will be like it just does not want to. So what I'll do is I'll slightly put a screwdriver like this in. Of course, I can't really do it now, but when it's open, you can touch a little area in here and push it forward, and then it will get into place here and let go, and then close down. If your piston is not straight, simply do this. You just push it back a little bit, and it will unlock itself to be straight in here. So that's pretty much everything. If you have a problem with the trigger, I use this one, and I will grab that spring and just forcefully go like that. So you pop it in there. You could even use a tool to hold the trigger like this for you while it's in there, so it will stay in place. I found, from my experience, that the back here where the trigger is, back of it, is if it's hitting the gearbox the right way, then it's not hitting this gear, and that creates a way for it to stay in place, and you have no issue whatsoever, which you could see I didn't have any issues with that. So I don't think there's anything else I can say. Other than that's pretty much done. If you're installing some parts, and some new parts, and you're not sure if they're going to fit in the gearbox, I will tell you, like a bore-up kit or something, sometimes you have to do some modification to the gearbox shell. But the bore-up kit is an example, like a garter bore-up kit. You'll have to radius sometimes and make room in here for the dang shell to fit, the dang cylinder to fit in. And when you get to closing the gearbox, it won't close, and you're like, it's not closing, what's going on? Just calm down and take everything out, put parts in first to see what fits and doesn't. That way, when you get to the point where you're actually going to close, you know, hey, everything's going to mesh together. I know it's going to close. So the problem is I'm just not doing a good enough job to close it. But there you go. It is completely done. I will tell you the truth, I have never had the spring guide and spring shoot out or shoot at me. I guess shoot out in general, just never had it. People brag about that. I don't think it's something to brag about. Okay, so we'll go ahead and close this up, and I guess this is done for the video. You can see it was just very easy to do. You just have to be quick, you just have to do it, and basically you got to be the boss. Where's that hammer at? Here it is. You got to be the boss of your gearbox. And what that means is if your gearbox doesn't listen to you, you got to make it listen to you. So that's it for this video, guys. I'll catch you later. Hit you with a fist. Backhand style.